I'll go ahead and ask this one, kind of changing topics a little bit, but like, how were you feeling when you were like a junior in college? Like, did you feel confident in like your job search and like how you were going about it? And like, when did you finally feel as if you were ready to like enter the corporate world and like perform a job?
Do you know how quickly all of us? Do you know how quickly all of us would trade places with you? The feeling is pretty good. You know, you're not going to be completely settled until you've signed your letter and know exactly what's going on. But you know, that's what this time's for too. You know, you got to accomplish that. So get it done and live easy. Do really well in your summer internship and make sure it's one that you like and keep it, and then have a really happy, stress-free senior year.
I think one point I'd make, I don't know, maybe you guys might disagree, but at least from what I've heard from a lot of friends in various industries and myself, a lot of jobs out there are not harder than some of the stuff you do in college, especially if you're studying a tough engineering degree or, you know, a science degree or a math degree. A lot of jobs you do out there are only you're going to use a subset of everything you learned, and you know, in many cases you're not going to be working as hard as you are if you go to a great school and you do a tough degree. And so from that perspective, you know, if there's any sense of being nervous or worried about whether you're ready, I wouldn't worry too much about it. That's my personal perspective. Is like, I think given that you are spending time now developing the fundamentals, you'll be prepared, and a lot of learning happens on the job. You know, especially when you go to companies that I think on both sides. If you go to a small company that is itself growing, there's going to be a lot of room for you to grow with the company. There's going to be a lot of responsibility potentially, but at the same time, you learn a lot. And on the other hand, if you do go into a more established company, most of them do have training programs. Most of them have, you know, shadowing and mentorship programs. So a lot of what you learn specific to the job will come from those programs and what you do on a day-to-day basis. Going back to the earlier point of, you know, not a lot of skills that you learn in the classroom will be used directly on your job.
I agree. I think it's also so you're probably feeling some kind of uneasiness due to kind of the uncertainty of like what lies ahead, what job you're going to get, and are you going to be happy there? Um, but but you can take that time to kind of embrace that uncertainty, and I think it's a good time to figure out instead of looking at what company you want to work for, first of all, think about what you want to be doing, where you want to be, kind of the more human things that need to be taken care of, like what kind of what kind of things you want to do outside of work, and can you do those once the job is over? Do you want to be working 14 hours a day? And then I say narrow your search based on those type of things first, because I found that's something that you can kind of lose track of while you're in like the haze of trying to find a really good job, and you don't really pay attention to the stuff that's important like that.
So, Julian, you just used the word uncertainty. So I've got a question now for all the panelists. You've all got a job. Some of you have had, at least you're on your second job. Does the uncertainty ever go away? You know, do any of you still have uncertainty as to, you know, what lies ahead, and if so, what, you know, talk about it a little bit. Anybody? That's a live wire, but I'd be curious. I think that the students might enjoy your answer.
I can speak to the near term a little bit. You know, I guess standard path is for you to go into a consulting or banking role for a couple of years and then split and do what you really want to do. Find your venture capital company, find your private equity firm, whatever it might be. And what I think is that those cycles will just come for the rest of your life. And again, from a young person's perspective, I just feel like, you know, there's always going to be a next step. There's always going to be something to look forward to or ahead to. But just because that's there doesn't mean you can lose sight of, you know, the task at hand. So do good work, you know, work hard in finding a job, work hard in that job, and as long as you keep your feet moving, you're going to be going forward and hopefully up. So, no, you're always going to be uncertain, but you don't have time to worry about that too much. Just focus on what's ahead of you.
I think I agree with Henry. I mean, to a certain extent, I think actually, not to deter anybody, the uncertainty increases, right? Especially after you get a few years out of college, because like Henry said, there will be for the first few years there's some tracks that a lot of people follow, like myself. There's a finance or consulting path, or there's an engineering gig, and you can see yourself doing that for a few years, but as my parents often lament, like the idea of like a career gig, some being at one company for 20, 30 years doesn't really exist anymore. And so to the extent that our generation changes jobs more frequently and changes career paths more frequently, there's going to be uncertainty with the fact that, like, okay, I know what I'm doing for the next 2 or 3 years, but I don't know what I'm doing after that. And so I think that will always be there. But at the same time, like Henry said, that's not a function of the fact that options don't exist or the path will not show itself. It's that today you don't know what it is, but maybe in 2 years you will, and you'll find opportunities, and you'll grab the opportunity that's great, and you'll take it by the horns, and it'll be awesome. But today you don't know that, and that's different from when you're younger, because you're in middle school, you know what you got to do to go to in high school. You're in high school, you know what you got to do to go to college. If you're in college, you know what you got to do to get your first job or go to grad school. But that doesn't really exist going forward, I would argue.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I agree. There's way more uncertainty once you're out of college, and once you're no longer really told what to do. It's uncertainty about work. It's the uncertainty about kind of what direction you want to take your life in, honestly. And yeah, it can be kind of overwhelming because you've never, like, a lot of people who took the college track have never really been that aware of that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of uncertainty, but it definitely helps to while you're uncertain about things. I found that one of the ways that can kind of set you up for good opportunities in the future is really making sure that you form good interactions with people, good relationships with people, because that is the thing that's going to really kind of help you get in a good position in the future, even if you don't know what that's going to be.
It's a great question, Connor. I love it. And if anything comes out of this, I'll tell you what, I'm looking at 3 panelists who I know are super smart. I'm looking at 4 people who are at an Ivy League school, and I know Aaron's there somewhere. So, we got all these smart people, and I think it may be tempting when you experience uncertainty because you're intelligent, you think you can make it go away. You're smart. I can problem solve through it and eliminate it. And I think what these guys are telling you, and you know it as well, it never goes away. It's about managing it. And I think the really talented ones, they learn how to harness it, how to harness the energy that comes from the uncertainty. And these are the people who make awesome contributions. They find happiness, and they become role models. But that's my opinion.